So we're good. So touching up a bit on the same points as Fabiana did in such a great way is talking about some of the struggles that a company goes through when jumping into VR. If you look at the title, it's VR games from the unlikeliest of places. Game Cooks is based in the Middle East. It's based in Beirut, Lebanon. So that comes with a bit of its own constraints and struggles. And this is some of the things that I'm going to walk you through in a bit. So I'm sorry about the formatting. It didn't come across well on the presentation. So let me tell you a bit about the company that I work for, which is called Game Cooks. We were founded in 2012. We're based in Beirut, Lebanon, with an office, a small presence in San Francisco, but the entire production team is based in Beirut. We started off in mobile gaming, and we gained recognition for a game called Run for Peace at the time of the Arab Spring, which was about a character called Salim on a peace-spreading journey through the Middle East. So that kind of got its attention in 2012 when the whole Arab Spring was hitting all the news lines. We jumped on the VR bandwagon in 2016. I'll tell you more about that. Right now, we have a PC VR title, Vindicta, that's live on Steam VR, and I'll tell you more about that as well in a little bit. And we're the first developers in the Middle East to launch a VR game on HTC Vive. I feel I'm kind of representing the VR gaming community here in San Francisco from the Middle East, so I really have to do a good job today. Again, sorry about the formatting. So some of the constraints that we have being a Middle Eastern gaming company, I don't know how much you guys know about Lebanon. We're located in the Middle East between Syria and Israel-Palestine, so not the most desirable geographical location, but it's still a beautiful, beautiful country on the Mediterranean. One of the things that we're famous for is the slow internet connection. Recently, it's been getting a bit better, but our internet connection is very slow, which makes it harder for companies such as us to function in the gaming industry. It's a really, really small gaming community, so I know every person in the gaming community by name, and it's a very small knit community. It's still very small, so it's hard for companies that are well established to have any peers to discuss, to brainstorm, to come up with new ideas because it's so small. But it's on the uphill. It's getting better. So more constraints, there are no gaming conferences within close proximity, which is why I'm in San Francisco. There are no game dev programs in university. It's still such a new concept. So any game devs are actually game devs that that learned how to develop on their own in their house online, looking at tutorials. There are no sources to buy VR equipment. We've actually had to, whenever we come here, we actually have to buy the equipment and take it back with us. And there's a lack of gaming talent. Very talented developers, but if there are any talented developers, they end up traveling outside of Lebanon to work for the big gaming studios in Europe or in the US. Online payment difficulties. So today, I can only use my credit card to pay online. Debit card is not, I cannot use it online, and even credit cards are a bit difficult, so that comes as well for gaming. It's a bit of constraints for us. And definitely lack of funding. Gaming is such a new concept in the Middle East that to have investors invest in an area that they don't really understand or are not exposed to. So lack of funding is definitely a big problem. But that being said, again, I'm sorry for the formatting. That being said, gaming in Lebanon is picking up. We have 3 established gaming studios. We're one of them, Game Cooks. You have a gaming accelerator that just started this year, so we're very excited about it to help new game developers develop their game and launch it in the market. New indie groups pop up every year. You have some informal gatherings, gaming workshops, and regular game jams, but it's pretty small still. So now I'm going to tell you a bit of our journey from mobile to VR. So how did we start in VR? We actually went to GDC 2016. It was our big first trip from Beirut to the States for a gaming conference. We went there. We were going with a small prototype of a mobile game we had developed, and we were sure that this is going to be it. It's a great prototype. So we went there, and everywhere we looked was just all about VR. People were really excited about VR. GDC 2016 was, the headlines were all about virtual reality and its coming of age, etc. So as soon as we saw that, we saw an opportunity. So we saw an opportunity in a niche market versus where we were at that time, which is mobile gaming, which is an overcrowded market, very hard to stand out, particularly if you're an indie gaming studio. So it was really an exciting alternative for an overcrowded market where we were in. The logical transition from mobile to mobile VR first. So we went from mobile to mobile VR. So the first game that we worked on was on Samsung Gear VR. It was very easy. We're a small, flexible team. We're 10, 7 fully dedicated to production. So that transition was very easy. So this is why today in VR, indie developers are much easily can jump into the VR bandwagon because they are smaller, because they're more flexible, and it's much easier. And it didn't take long for us to do that transition. So it took us only a month to pivot. So this is kind of the indie studio advantage that we had. And in 5 months, we launched our first title called Hover. It's a character that's on a hoverboard that's going through a world after having stolen some secret code. They were running from the secret organization. And so you're just going through that world, going left and right. So this is a Hover. So again, Hover was our first jump into VR. We were featured, we launched it. It was a pilot project, I would say. We had no expectations. It was featured among the top games on the Oculus Store. We reached 20K download in a very short amount of time. And we were finalists at the Google Play Indie Game Festival. So we're like, hey, seems like we know kind of what we're doing, so why don't we just stick to VR and see what else we can come up with? And mind you, at that time, we were creating for Samsung Gear VR, but we were kind of having this itch of how can we push it further? How can we do more in that area? This is where we started working on our PC VR game, which is called Vindicta. We just launched actually last week. So Vindicta is a first-person shooter for HTC Vive. It was launched early access last week. One of the key, I would say some of the key points that I would have to say about Vindicta is that it has a wide range of motion, so you can duck, crawl, climb, a lot of movements that you would want to do inside the VR environment. Arm swinging locomotion, so we came up with a new locomotion system in this type of game, which is an FPS game, where you press on the trackpad on an HTC Vive, and you just swing your arms. It sounds like a very silly solution, but it actually worked because it reduced the motion sickness for a lot of people that were playing VR. And accurate shooting mechanism. So many people that have tried it have commended that the shooting mechanism is very accurate, which is very important for a first-person shooter. And yesterday, we won the VR Indie Pitch first place winner, so I had to add it in there. OK, so here's a quick video about the game. Sorry, guys. OK, so again, sorry about the formatting. We've launched this game. We went through 5-6 months of production process. It's our first PC VR game. We've never launched anything on Steam before. So we definitely had to learn a lot of things as we went along. One of the things that I would have to say is when you're first starting, if you're going from mobile to VR, particularly if you're going from mobile to PC VR, the most important thing is to do a lot of research, really finding out really finding out who are the top people to reach out to that can help you in that transition, attend the top events, and how to attend the local. So for example, we're an indie gaming studio from Lebanon, so attending all of the gaming conferences in the West Coast was is definitely not possible. So we had to find different ways of making that happen. Top awards to participate in, to get recognition, top influencers to pitch to, and definitely looking at your market research. So you don't want to come up with a game that's already been done 10 times over. And I'm saying that, and we created a FPS, which are already very available, but we did that by focusing on 3 aspects that really made us stand out. And I'll focus on that in a bit. I still have 3 minutes left. OK. So seated versus room scale, really making that decision of going to room scale, because it really really represented everything we wanted to feel inside the VR environment, being able to translate body motions into a game, making it more immersive. So this is why we chose to go with the HTC Vive. It really gave us the tools we needed to create that kind of environment and that kind of immersion and experience where you're really moving. So translating your physical movement in reality into a virtual reality environment. So again, indie gaming studio, time is not on your side. You cannot spend a year or 2 working on a game. So you really have to decide what are the things that you're going to focus on in a VR game. I can tell you, yes, our game is amazing and it's beautiful, etc. But it's not the most. If you look at the game, it's very simple in terms of design, in terms of the way it looks, the enemies, etc. That's because we decided to focus on the core mechanics, which are locomotion system, shooting system, and having an active VR game. So these were, because you have to decide what your competitive advantages are, how you're going to stand out to other games, particularly since we're an FPS game and there are already a lot out there. So locomotion system, there's motion sickness. VR has it's a big issue. So instead of like working around it and using some already existing way of movement, we decided to tackle it and come up with our own system, which is arm swinging. You press on the trackpad and you swing your arms. So we have 2 options. So it's either following the HMD or following your controller. So we have that option as well. And so far, it's been very well received. Shooting system, we actually brought in some army specialists to the office because we knew the shooting system is everything in a FPS game. And so some army officials came in and started testing it out, testing the recoil, the accuracy. So it really, really helped us to narrow down that aspect in the game. Active VR gameplay, which is the buzzword. So really, we added a very big range of motion. So being able to climb. At some points, you have to go through a dock. So you literally have to go down on your hands and knees and just go through a tunnel. So really making sure that the person has a wide range of motions that they can do inside the game to really feel part of the game. Because the more you're moving and feeling part of the game, the more immersed you are, the greater the experience, right? We stayed away from teleportation, even though it's been asked somewhat from certain players, just because when you're teleporting, it takes you a split second to realize where you are relative to your enemies. And in our game, there's a lot of battle arenas, and that would put you at a disadvantage and would kind of slow you down. So we opted out of it. So we're running out of time. OK, so in terms of a game pitch, the most important thing I would have to say, because I work on the communication side of things, as you would see with my lovely presentation with all the fonts, is that really, really knowing what are the top points of your game, how do you stand out? Because a lot of the people that you're talking to will not have a chance to try your game or will wait a while to hear what other people think. So really have that narrowed down, like how does my game stand out? I'm working in VR. What am I adding new? What am I bringing new to the table? Events. Added Pocket Gamer, so definitely participating in as many events as possible. Of course, as an indie game developer, it's a bit difficult, so really choosing the top events where you can have an impact and have visibility. Community. OK, so we launched our game last week, and there was this a small mishap that happened that I'm happy to share here. So we're based in Beirut. Nobody has access to a VR, because you actually have to buy it outside of the country. But we did do a launch VR party where people came in and had their first experience in VR. But a lot of them are on Steam. They have a Steam account. They play PC game. It's really big. In order to support us, what they ended up doing is going on there and putting reviews of the game that they tried at our party, even though they have 0 VR games. That actually, their good intention actually backfired against us, because a lot of the players on Steam and on the community actually thought it was fake reviews. So rather than have a really, really smooth and exciting launch, I log in on Steam and I see like these bad comments on Reddit, of people thinking that it was the developers actually going on there and putting these reviews from fake accounts. So that took a bit of a day or two of kind of like calming that storm. So really, one of the most important is being in touch with your community. Thankfully, a lot of these people, we knew them. So they were more receptive when we tried to explain the situation. So again, community, going on Reddit, going on the Steam VR groups, really being active, getting them involved, because even if they have negative things to say at first, if they see that you respond well to the comments that they give, you end up gaining some of the biggest advocates of your game. Again, so involve early in production, be it through testing or sharing behind the scenes. They'll appreciate it, become your #1 advocates, and definitely, it will open your eyes to things you hadn't thought of. Testing. So we launched in early access last week. Thankfully, if we hadn't done some of the testing, our launch would have gone a completely different direction. And even with that, there are certain things that we still need to work on. But I mean, we're still in early access, so that's forgiven. Small changes here and there, which will be pushed in an update next week or 2. And build a close relationship with them, worth the investment. Honestly, I think I've given more than I can count of Steam codes just to get people to try it out. Because a lot of times when you're working with VR, it's very hard for people to understand what the experience is from a video or from people talking about it. You actually have to try to really understand how it makes you feel and why it's as exciting as people say it is. So this is what we did. Build connections. So early on, when we only had the Steam VR, like a teaser, which didn't even show anything of the gameplay, I started sending out emails. So send out emails to the Steam Store, HTC Vive, which are honestly amazing. They've really helped us a lot. VR influencers, Unity, which is the engine that we built on the game on, but Unreal for whoever is working on it. Events, awards, video reviews, really reaching out early on to start getting the word out, start getting interactions, getting feedback. It really helps and makes things easier. We wouldn't have done it without, sorry again for the font. We wouldn't have done it without the GameCooks community of friends and family. Really, I mean, we've been doing this since 2012. We still haven't hit it big. We're still hoping that at some point close in time, that title, Vindicta, we have a good feeling about this, that this is going to be the title that's going to get GameCooks where we want it to be. So in order to last that long, really passion and dedication, they're the crucial ingredients. And an all-around awesome GameCooks team. They're amazing. Thank you.